grew up in Evanston. From our apartment, you can hear the police sirens every day and the gunshots every night. My next door neighbor cooked drugs in his basement. When I was 8, my father walked out on us and my mom struggled to feed me and my 2 little sisters. She cleaned houses in the day and bussed tables at night. I would only see her for 3 hours each day. But the guys on my block, they had the newest Jordans, shiny cars, with rims bigger than me. They would often give me $50 bills if I ran errands for them. The way I saw it, I had 2 options: make money like my mom, or make money like the guys on my block.
When I woke up in that dark hospital room, after just taking all of those pills, I thought to myself, oh my God, why am I still here? This had all happened after somebody that I deeply cared about had convinced me that everything that was wrong with their life was because I existed. I figured the only way to solve their problem was to take my life. And that was just another day for me as a teenager. I grew up in a house full of 3 very strong women. Survival for me meant knowing what it took to keep every single one of them calm. But I never knew what it meant to keep myself calm. I remember I would argue with my mom all the time saying, I'm so sick and tired of being the only man around here. I was only 13.
I'm sure my friends were getting sick of my whining. I was getting sick of my whining, but I didn't know what else to do. My wife, Brenda, and I had been unable to have children, and we'd had so many miscarriages that we actually lost count. I was in a dark place with everyone, but especially with Brenda. Then a friend pulled me aside and asked me some questions. They asked, what was it that you hoped to experience as a dad? What would you have given to your children or to have received? And where else in your life could you find those experiences? And that reminded me of my oldest sister, Linda, who had been a big sister for a little girl named Noreen. And over the years, I watched Noreen's confidence grow, and my sister had a great time. So I approached Brenda and I said, what would you think if I were to apply to be a big? She said, you should go for it.
When I was 12, I got a big brother. I was so excited, I waited by the window for hours. An orange car pulled up to my street, and this old white guy got out. We hung out every weekend, and every time he would drop me home, I would think, I'm never gonna see him again, because people always left. But David was different. He kept coming back. He would always help me with my homework and actually made me do it. Most people just did it for me. He was always making me practice my reading. I remember one time, we were in his car, and he hands me a spray can and asks me to read the instructions on the back. He helps me sound out the words I can't make, and then when I was done, he just threw it in the back seat. And I realized, he's making me read again. But David told me about going to college, his first job, how he built his own business. He gave me a third option and included the blueprints in it. But more importantly, he believed in me. When I was 17, I told myself, I'm going to college.
A few months before I turned 14, I remember waking up to the sound of my mom yelling, Gyp, get downstairs. I immediately threw on some clothes. I rushed downstairs to find this old white man just standing there in my living room. There was another man with him who had explained that he was from an organization called Big Brother, Big Sister, and that the man standing in my living room was my big brother. I immediately looked at my mom. He had explained that I would go with him maybe once or twice a week and that he would be somebody that I could talk to. In other words, he would be somebody that understands. Up until that point, I hadn't had too many male figures come and stay in my life. And at first, I just figured, I like that he got me away from my family for a while. But as I got older, I began to appreciate that he never made me feel responsible for his emotions. And I hadn't seen anything like that before.
Both boys were struggling in school when I first met them. First Jose, and then when our match ended 7 years later, Gyp. I quickly realized that Jose couldn't read, write, or do math at all. Yet he was a great storyteller. He had a great mind, and I realized that he could remember and process anything as long as he heard it through a story. Gyp told me school was going great for him when we first met, until 3 months into our match, he came this close to failing 8th grade. Gyp could read and write, and he was really articulate. For Gyp, it was that school just seemed to go too fast for him. So in each instance, I reached out to the Big Brothers and Big Sisters case manager and said, what can we do? And they helped me come up with a plan to help each of them hopefully start to learn. With Jose, we realized anything that had to do with cars, he was in. So we started to read to each other a book about the science of cars. And slowly he started to learn. Now the reward for finishing that book was that we went together to the Chicago Auto Show, where Jose sat in every single car in the entire show. With Gyp, we realized that playing basketball was the in. He had a lot of anger that he needed to talk through, and we were able to do that on the basketball court. Gyp went to internet school, which essentially meant that he was confined to his home all day, trying to take the classes on his laptop while actually watching his younger, very energetic and precocious sister. Gyp's life was chaotic. Even on the day that he tried to end his life, I talked to him around noon that day, and he was in a great mood. He was so excited because he actually got to leave the house. He was going to a birthday party. 8 hours later, they were pumping his stomach in the ER. And that swing of moods, that rapid swing of moods, was very common in his life. There were so many times that I just felt completely over my head, not knowing what to do for these boys. And at those moments, I just tried to remember the basics. Keep showing up, because neither one of these boys had a man who had ever shown up for them. Second, listen. Because it seemed that the adults in their life were so busy just trying to keep it going that they didn't have much time to listen to them. And then be that defender of their potential, because any lack of success that they'd experienced up to that point said more about their circumstances than about their capacity. And if I could just do those basic things, it seemed that I could watch them come to life right in front of my eyes.
I'm the first person in my family to graduate high school, Purcell Marion, and college, Xavier. After graduation, for 6 years now, I've been lobbying in Washington, D.C. on immigration policies, and now lead a national campaign for immigration reform. Because of Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and David, I learned that when you show up for someone and you care for them, you can change their world.
My teen years were rough. There were plenty of times where I felt like giving up, with school, family, and even my own life. David and Miss Wendy, who was like my guardian angel from Big Brother, Big Sister, fought with me and fought for me. I'm grateful to Big Brothers and Big Sisters for placing those people in my life. Today, I'm 22 years old, and I'm a psychology major at the University of Cincinnati, where I'm studying to become a therapist for children in difficult situations. And I'm also a program lead at another nonprofit organization where I work to guide youth into becoming the future leaders of tomorrow. Without Big Brother, where would I be?
Jose, yeah, please. Jose, Gyp, and I really want to thank our case managers. For Jose and his family, it was a woman named Maria. For Gyp, he's already called out, it was Miss Wendy. And we want to thank all of those people behind the scenes at Big Brothers Big Sisters who just held us up. Our case managers were many times our therapists who would listen to us complain when we were frustrated and overwhelmed. But you also seem to always find the resources that we need or access to whatever it was when things were not going well. We also want to thank Brenda. Who was so supportive all the time, even when we know your heart ached too. People tell me often, these boys, they're so lucky to have you in their lives. And what Brenda and I and anybody here who's been a big know, that what I gave to them was a drop compared to the waves of love and joy that came back in my direction. I'd like to leave you with this. The boys didn't know it, but I asked them both the same question at different points in our match. And the question was, where do you think you'd be today if you didn't have big brothers and big sisters in your life? So a couple of years in, I asked that question the first time. And when I asked Jose, he said,
Jail.
7 years later, I asked the same question of Gyp, and he said,
I'd probably be in jail.
and then near the end of their match, I asked the same question. Where do you think you'd be today if it weren't for big brothers and big sisters in your life? This time, Jose said,
I'd be dead.
and years later, Gyp said,
I'd probably be dead.
and the truth is that both Gyp and Jose have friends that they used to hang out with that are in jail or dead. And we believe that one of the biggest reasons that they're here today speaking to you is because they had the support of big brothers and big sisters. So in a minute, Jessica is going to be here and ask you to give generously to big brothers and big sisters, but we wanted to show you what your donations really do in a real way in people's lives. Because your donation is going to change the lives of some kids who need you right now, and it may even save some lives.